get stepped on when we bring it up. Certain things that
the streets into.
Yeah, that they're not into.
Or what's more likely is the things that actually interest some of you, y'all just don't speak about.
No, the things I'm telling you, the things that we do speak about that interest us when they don't interest everybody else on the pod. Certain people, it gets stepped on and overlooked. So we don't.
What name was that bullet?
Joe Budden. Joe Budden.
Yeah, but you want to play around with it. I'm serious with him. His lack of effort, he want to use this bull narrative that he gets stepped on. Don't nobody step on your show initiative.
If you it's not lack of effort. We're not going to do that. There's things that I bring up. It's not lack of effort, Joe.
I've been begging y'all to have a decent conversation about Love Island for weeks.
Joe, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about things that interest. If it's
It's only the biggest show out. I ain't watching it. These love it. I throw to Elliot. They didn't want to talk about it. Don't say Joe Budden step on. I learned how to shut the up. That's something I had to learn to do. I've learned how to do it. So now, those that need to learn how to show initiative, show some initiative. If you like Kanan, talk about Kanan.
All right, we'll see.
Kanan.
But you see, there's a thing. There's a reason why. It ain't just me. There is a reason why. To answer your question, that certain things don't.
There's been quiet tension building behind the scenes on the Joe Budden Podcast for quite some time now. And if you've been following the show closely, you've probably noticed the signs. What started as subtle disagreements has gradually turned into something much harder to ignore. Over the past several months, listeners have watched small moments of frustration pile up, and now it seems they've finally reached a breaking point. Joe Budden has officially spoken his mind about how he feels regarding Ice's role on the podcast, giving fans one of the clearest looks yet at the creative friction that's been developing inside one of hip-hop's biggest podcasts. Whether you rank it above or below The Breakfast Club is up for debate, but when it comes to the podcasting space, many fans still view JBP as one of the industry's biggest platforms. From everything that's been circulating, the issue doesn't appear to be about a single disagreement. Instead, it seems to be a recurring pattern that's frustrated Joe for a long time. Topics are brought to the table, discussions get started, but once it's time to really dive into the details, the conversations don't always reach the level of depth Joe expects. According to him, that's become an ongoing problem. He's hinted at this criticism before on multiple occasions, suggesting that Ice sometimes moves through segments without adding enough substance or fully developing the conversation. Joe hasn't outright called him lazy, but his comments have come close enough that many listeners interpreted them that way. From Joe's perspective, the podcast works best when every co-host brings strong opinions, detailed storytelling, and genuine preparation to each topic. As a result, what viewers are seeing now doesn't feel like a sudden argument. It feels like the latest chapter in a long-running creative disagreement that's been quietly growing behind the scenes for months.
Expect podcasters, all, not just y'all, to extract something interesting. As a podcaster, it should be your job to kind of extract what is interesting.
But what'll happen is you'll get here and as in the middle of telling your story, when everybody starts laughing and kiki-keying and all of that other shit, it stops you from telling your story. It does it to everybody in here outside of Joe, because when Joe's telling the story, we may not do that.
It's not that.
I'm not saying you can't live.
That's their little crutch they be using.
I don't.
But at what point is it your job to find the funny things that you would say on camera? I call it willing to do your job, but what do I know?
Now we get to the behind the scenes episode. And you know how Joe gets when he's truly fed up. The energy shifts, the tone sharpens, and things stop feeling like a regular taping. That's exactly what happened in the exchange he had with Ish and Ice on the last Patreon episode. It was rough to sit through. At points, it almost played out like an HR conversation, the kind of exchange you'd expect between a manager and an employee who's underperforming, not two people who've worked together for years. Joe leaned on language that felt genuinely pointed, the sort of thing that if your own boss said it to you would feel like a warning shot. Something along the lines of, "This is just doing your job, but hey, what do I know?" Followed by a direct call out about a lack of effort. That's not a small thing to say to someone you've built a show with. Here's my read on where this is coming from. I think Joe's frustration has been building through all the coaching, the patience, the times he stood 10 toes down publicly defending Ice, calling him one of the best in the business. And now it feels like Joe's finally admitting to himself what a lot of listeners have apparently felt for a while. But to be fair, I don't think Ice is wrong either. Joe does have a habit of stepping on stories mid-telling, and there's a real pattern where if something doesn't personally grab him, he seems to assume it won't land with the audience at all, which isn't necessarily true. That's a fair critique to raise. At the same time, I'll be honest, I'm struggling to think of a moment where Ice fully carried a story on his own, start to finish, without Joe, Mark, or Flip stepping in to help shape it or push it along. And that might be exactly why those segments come across as flat to Joe in the first place. It's a two-way problem, not a one-sided one. Looking ahead, I think there's a real test coming in the next few episodes. A moment where Ice tries to lead a story on his own, and it'll be on Joe to actually let him get through it. Not cut him off, not turn it into a running joke at his expense, because a lot of how Ice shows up on the show right now seems shaped by Joe's presence and his particular style of coaching. Compare that to someone like Charlemagne, who tends to wave off a bad or out-of-line comment from a co-host with something like, "Come on now, that's not it," and just moves on. Joe's approach is noticeably more heavy-handed than that. And it doesn't stop with the room either. Once Joe frames a narrative on air, the fan base tends to run with it and repeat it as their own take, which only reinforces whatever story Joe's telling about a co-host. Honestly, I don't have a clean answer for how this should go. I understand where Ice is coming from. Joe likes to test people. It's very reminiscent of that first season of Succession, where the wealthy family dangles something in front of someone, fully aware they're not equipped to actually reach it, just to see how they react under pressure. Joe puts his cast through something similar. He likes putting people through it, watching how they respond when they're uncomfortable. Whether he's actually mature enough to let Ice struggle through telling a story, genuinely struggle, without magnifying it or turning it into content at Ice's expense, I honestly don't know. What Joe is clearly great at is making a finished product shine. Whether he has the patience to nurture someone who's still developing and make them look better than they currently are instead of worse is a completely different skill. I'm not convinced that's one he has. So let me know what you think about this one. As for what happens next, my honest guess is Ice doesn't want any part of this conflict. He seems like someone who'd rather just show up, do his job, collect his check, and go home, the way you would at a normal 9 to 5. But in creative, entertainment-driven work like this, that mindset usually isn't enough to hold up long term.